Join former FBI senior forensic examiners Becky Passmore and Stacy Eldridge as they dig into the world of digital forensics, one bite at a time. Now leading their own consulting firms and educating the next generation of cyber sleuths, these badass babes of digital forensics bring sharp insight, real-world case experience, and a dose of humor to the bits and bytes that build today's investigations. From deep dives into business email compromise and ransomware attacks, Becky's specialty, to cracking the complexities of iPhone forensics, Stacy's obsession, this podcast delivers insider knowledge for professionals, students, and true crime techies alike. If you've ever wondered what really happens when the digital trail is all that's left, tune in and start parsing the truth.
Parsing the Truth one bite at a time is proud to welcome our first sponsor, Ace Forensics. They are based near Chicago and they've been building systems since 1983. Ace Forensics delivers high-performance digital forensics workstations, laptops, and servers to justice agencies across the United States and around the world. They offer unmatched value and the industry's only 5-year digital forensics warranty. Ace Forensics build the systems your digital forensics software deserves. If you're procuring digital forensics equipment, reach out to them for a competitive quote. Now, on to our episode.
Welcome to the Digital Forensic Podcast, and not only the DFN, but also we're accompanied by the amazing Stacy Eldridge, Becky Passmore, from Parsing the Truth one bite at a time. So they're so glad. So first of all, we're in IASIS. You can see our IASIS shirts. So we're teaching. Well, the student that could be our teacher. So all that knowledge there. So so thank you for being with us. So this is our first, I would say, official interview.
We had one with Chris Vance prior, but
that's
this is
true.
our official interview. That was talking about
An artifact, yeah.
Oh, I was like, this is a crossover event, they used to do with Grey's Anatomy and private practice. That's how old I am. So
Well, we are.
what shows you're talking about.
Well, this is a treat because you're here. Also, we got some nice chairs here. We're at the ISIS event, like I was saying. And this is the second week of the event. And it's been great. So we've been teaching, obviously, for the folks that watch, the advanced mobile device forensics course. Becky is helping with
Cyber Incident Forensic Response class.
and that's one of the newer classes, I believe, right?
It's been going 10 years. This is year 10, number 10.
Oh, well, that tells you how much I know about intrusion response.
Yeah.
I'm the one that doesn't know anything. And you're taking a class.
yes, I am taking advanced applied database forensics. So now I'm really going to be dangerous. Yes.
Oh, Damien
Yes.
is great.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I think my head exploded about 14 times in the last 2 days. I was just like, oh my gosh.
Well, mine just exploded just listening to you. All the databases. So today, one of the things we wanted to do, since we have you here and we kind of met here, and again, it gives us a little bit of background. Folks that listen to your podcast know, I would assume we kind of have a lot of crossover between audiences. But for those that might listen to us and not know about what your podcast is about, can you give us a quick rundown of your background and what's the podcast about?
Yeah. So Becky and I are both former FBI senior forensic examiners. Used to be on the computer analysis response team. We've since moved on. We both teach at the university level. We have our own businesses. And what we do with our podcast, we say we're the true crime-ish podcast.
Crime-ish?
Yeah, because, we're not the typical true crime podcast. We're focusing on the facts and the artifacts that today's digital forensic examiners are finding or sometimes not finding.
Yeah.
And so we talk about all of that sort of stuff. And that's the only part of the cases and the trials that we dive into. We don't go into anything else. We have a very narrow focus.
Yeah, that's different from us. We're more like the whole kind of what's in the news.
Yeah.
Like
Digital forensic news.
yeah, it's kind of our forte. So
yeah, we go backwards in time and you're current.
both need it. So I want to say, look, I'm happy to have you because one of my first, not my first, but Becky taught me a whole bunch of stuff when I was going up through the CART program.
That's how we met.
Yeah.
Briggs came to a DEX
The
course
DEX course,
that I
yeah.
was teaching.
Yeah.
And that's how we met.
Yeah. So that was the pleasure of I think it was the first DEX class that we ever given in the bureau.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
the certificate for that cohort and the first class in that cohort.
That's right. Right.
So, and again, this community, if I mean, not only in the United States but worldwide, it's really a small group. Right? I mean,
really
of
is.
digital experts to do the type of work, and it's great to have those sort of relationships and kind of support each other as we grow in our careers. So, awesome to have you here.
So, question: You're blending digital forensics with true crime discussions. Why did you feel that that perspective was missing from the true crime space?
From the from the true crime podcast that I've listened to, so many of them are just people talking about whatever they think about this, that, and the other. It's not like relying on the facts or the evidence, or like the case hasn't even started. There's no motions. And it's not even in trial yet. And they have all of these opinions. And when I went through training, and what I stress to my students and when I stress in my own work, is to focus on the facts and the evidence and present that without bias as much as possible. And I just didn't think there was a lot of that out there. And then I also think, what a better way to learn than to see what's happening in the courtroom? Because it's one thing if you understand the zeros and ones, but if you can't convey that information to the jury, if they don't understand that, then, what have you even done? So I think the courtroom is like where the proof makes the pudding, right?
Absolutely.
Totally.
And I look at it as I've been around for a long time, and I see the amazing work of examiners, like going back to First Next. But also, I remember you were the first person on site at the Pulse, Orlando, and you're like, I don't know what to do, but I have 50 phones here. And, just working in that community and talking amongst each other. But examiners are humble people, and they don't get recognized in investigations like they should, because they just sit back and do their work. And I just feel like this is a way through our podcast with true crime and investigations and court proceedings and testimony that we can bring their humble work to light. We bring it out and we recognize what they have to do to get to where they're at.
Yeah, I had a meme where it's a boxing ring and the fighter's all bloody, and it's there, and next to it is the girl that has the card numbers, right, for the rounds, right? And the poor fighter, that's the examiner, and it's tongue in cheek, people, tongue in cheek. The girl with the cards is the agent or the investigator. So they're all pretty and we're all bloody after the fight.
They're getting all the attention.
Correct, and we don't right now. But I say tongue in cheek, right? Folks, if you follow my social media, you see my memes. It's because, again, like, to your point, examiners don't care for recognition. We care to bring justice to the victims or justice to those that have been wrongly accused, right? And we have different roles to play. And there's a lot of work in it, but the reward is not recognition. The reward is not even the money, because most of us work in a government sector. Is the actual change in society that we do. And I think most examiners, we can agree that's the feeling that we have. I want to also comment real quick. I really appreciate that you deal with cases as examples. It's something that we see a lot. It's folks asking us, well, where can we get a case study for something or an example of somebody testifying in this high situations? I'm like, I got a podcast for you that you got to listen about how the trial went, all the details about it, interesting guests. So you're feeling a really important niche or like a gap in knowledge that most examiners have in regards to how these cases are presented at court.
Yeah, and your podcast, I think, just discussing the court cases that are past or present or whatever, will lead people to go watch the trials that are televised too. So it really leads them into getting into the courtroom and getting that experience watching the actual testimony.
Yeah.
I don't think not a lot of people, but some people may not know how to find that on their own. And I feel like you guys are leading them there. Very, very good.
Yeah.
So you both have discussed the argument that tools don't solve cases, people do. We say that a lot as well. I think we have a common ground there. And you say that the dangers of over relying on commercial forensic tools. So where do you see examiners going wrong most often when it comes to tool dependency?
Yeah, I would say that I had this discussion recently with an AUSA that is still waiting for their evidence to be looked at, submitted, taken care of, and they just get a I'm gonna call it a pump and dump.
Yep.
They just get a pump and dump,
Yep.
right? They just button pushing report, and they don't understand.
I just call it dumb.
You do?
I just leave it
I
at
call
dumb.
it the same as you do, and it's fine.
I just tried to make Stacey laugh. All right.
But it is what it is, because so many people, there's so much work, right? We look at anywhere from 18 to 36 months backlog
Yeah.
for
Oh,
so
for
many
sure.
agencies
For sure.
that all they can do is push out reports, and all they can do is say, well, the tool said, or the tool said. Can't tell you how many times we've listened to testimony
Mhm.
where they say the tool said. And
Yep.
it's
That's such a huge pet peeve. They say Celebrite said, Axiom said, and if you are testifying, you need to put it in your own words about
Absolutely.
what you figured out and what you saw. You never once, like at the beginning, you can probably mention all your tools, but while you're talking about all the things and why it's important, you don't ever need to utter another tool name again.
That's right. That's right. And so just trying to, I mean, really teach those examiners that it's not what the tool says, it's what you interpret from the tool based on the artifacts, because the tool can be wrong.
Oh my goodness, all the time.
Absolutely.
And I'm a tool maker because I made the leaves, and I got folks that in the community that work on that. And I've been actually I had one of the folks saying, hey, there's some geolocation points that that you're missing, right? So it's either it might be wrong or it doesn't show everything, right? So just saying, well, whatever the tool shows me is what it is. Well, maybe it's not. Maybe there's some points that still needs to hit, right?
It's the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's what the tool parses.
It is. It is. I mean, maybe we can say the tool led me to, and then I dove into those databases or dove into those files and found this additional.
Yeah, it's
But we're not.
we're saying in class that you are the digital forensics tool, right?
Yeah.
You
And
are the tool.
yeah, my wife might think I'm a tool, but that's different. Sometimes I'm actually the forensics tool. I might say that made that clear. Okay, I bet she's watching. It's like, look at this tool. Anyways,
I'm sure she is. Yeah, no, couldn't agree with you more on that. I think the more that we keep talking about it and keep pushing it and keep teaching it, hopefully people will realize that maybe the dump is enough on one case. It pleads out the dump was enough. I got what I needed. But you will have that case where you have to go further and continue
let
making
me
awareness on that.
ask you. I need to put pause on this thing. On this, yeah, that's
Oh, somebody's like, hi, this podcast is great.
yeah, I love it. We're live. Let me interrupt you. All right, right. So in the cases that you discussed throughout your different episodes, have you seen that be an issue of an examiner that comes in and says, well, I just did what the tool said, right? How would that play out kind of generally in some of those cases that you discuss in the podcast?
I mean, we just watched testimony recently where
Yeah.
it talked about the Celebrite tool said, and the tool stated, and we had that conversation about the fact that they're just reading what the tool says. They're not examining or articulating the artifacts because they're incorrect. The tool being Celebrite has
Celebrite said,
because
this.
it has an X here and it produced this output. And I mean, that's what they're reading. They're reading it as what it is.
Yeah.
I wish. I mean, for obvious reasons, we can't do that. But I wish we have like a view of the jury to see how they react to different testimony, and from any sides, right? And I'm not like to your point, we're trying to be unbiased and be factual, but see what the reaction is, because I can assure you that if you go with that weak sauce, that jury will be like looking at you like all sorts of ways.
Well, I don't think you sound like an expert.
Yeah.
It
Right.
might come off as like defensive. Well, someone said, like, is that the tone that they're hearing?
Yeah.
Offended. They can't render an opinion. They can't make it sound important or significant because they're like, well, Becky said, Becky said,
Right.
Becky said.
Right. And I say it's deflection, right? It's
Mhm.
putting blame on something else. So if my testimony is wrong, it has to be because this is what the tool told.
Oh, yeah, and there's nothing I believe worse than not taking responsibility for whatever it is, either be it good or bad, right?
Yeah.
If you made a mistake or you have a typo in your report, then well, the computer, the spell check. No, you are the one doing the report. So own it, and actually helps a lot with how you come across as a person that's believable, that's trustworthy, right?
Yeah, definitely. So let's roll back to your podcast and specifically the interviews that you've done. So you interviewed the defense's digital forensic expert for the Casey Anthony trial.
Yes.
He revealed untold stories about the role behind the scenes. What was the most eye-opening thing that you learned from the conversation?
Well, one, that there was a defense expert.
Yeah, that's true.
They never got called to the
Either.
stand.
Yeah, no, you just got as a secret, right? The secret.
Well, and he was in a safe house during the trial because he was afraid people
Yeah.
would find out. The whole team was. So he
Yeah.
was in a safe house. He did it for free
Oh, wow.
because he felt
Yeah.
like, she was not represented and she was going to need somebody to,
Mhm.
even the case out.
I would say I also found out that how attorneys are strategic, that the state prosecution called the same expert, the defense, the defense called the same experts that the prosecution did. So they were their witnesses. So they called them up there and got them to speak to reports that they never even created. And it was just mind boggling because that was so many years ago that I couldn't believe that all that information came out through someone else. We prepare to the best that we can with who we're called by, either prosecution or defense, and then to be called by this opposing counsel to come up there and now
Get evidence in.
Yeah.
They got evidence in, and it wasn't just like
Ugh.
contradicting what they said earlier. They introduced evidence in through the state's witnesses
that's interesting.
well.
as the defense.
Oh, but that makes the point that, I mean, we tend to focus on the prosecution side usually. Well, I'm a witness for the prosecution, right?
Right.
No, you're a witness of truth,
Right.
Yeah.
right?
That's
Yeah.
true. That's
and
true.
and and we need, I think, as us that we teach folks, need to convey that to them too. Like, you're not a defense. Like, you don't have a horse to run in a race, right?
Yeah.
No, you're here to answer any questions, and folks, it happens. We try to break that bad habit. When you're talking to the prosecution, you're all attentive, and when the defense asks you a question, you're like, what do you want, right? Or vice versa, right?
Right.
But that mindset needs to go away,
Yes.
right? And I think to your point, we are there to speak the truth, no matter who has the question. I would treat the prosecution and the defense just as likely. I think some other countries, the expert is not even a witness to any party. It's services the court.
Yeah.
And it services the court, and they're there to provide expert witness to the court, not as part of any side. It's not adversarial like that.
Yeah.
So in different court systems, different ways of being, but the concept, I think, applies in that sense, that we're there to speak the truth no matter who's asking the questions or what points trying to be made. Truth is true no matter what.
That's right.
It's really easy to have that demeanor though when they're coming at you.
Oh no, yeah, I mean, for
But
sure.
yes,
Well,
yeah.
that's why
sure.
you
For
try
sure.
not to look at the attorney. You just look at
Right.
the jury
And just be
and
so
trap them
sweet.
yawning.
Yeah.
Try to mix it up when the yawns become
Or try to
plentiful.
get them to smile.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And I will say, a personal opinion, of course, is how important it is for folks that, like this gentleman, said, well, I think this person deserves a defense, and I'm gonna put some of my time to do that, and that's fine. I believe that, my understanding of the Constitution is that people have a right for a defense, and
Yeah.
that stigma that sometimes some examiners have for folks that do work outside of prosecutorial work. That's something that I don't agree. And I think it's such just kind of like an old school way of thinking that should die.
Right. Everybody deserves a defense. It's
Yeah.
Checks and balances. It keeps us all accountable on both sides,
and honest.
in both
Yes.
directions.
Yep.
So I think the other interesting thing that Larry Daniel knew going into it is he knew the discrepancy in the parsing with the MORC database that led to the 84 times versus the 1 time for the chloroform. As it hits, he knew that. And so that was part of their strategy baked into it going into it. So it wasn't like the lawyer Jose Baez, wasn't it? He was
Yeah.
not surprised when any of that stuff came out
Right.
in the testimony, and he was trying to get that to come out sooner rather than later.
Right.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to speak to the details of the case, obviously, but it's interesting in general sense. Either prosecution or defense have a strategy.
Yep.
They have the steps to that strategy, and they execute it, and that's their thing. And if you're thinking of being smarter than a lawyer, don't try it.
Yeah.
Just speak truth, all right? And that's it. No matter what your role is in a
Yep.
case, and
Yep.
and forget about the rest.
So, speaking of the cases that you talked about, recently there's been some chatter around the fact of whether or not it is acceptable to discuss ongoing, active, or closed cases. And it specifically addresses active and closed cases. So, you've been interviewing witnesses in these types of cases. How do you decide when it's the right time to conduct an interview? And honestly, I'll add a little to that. Do you or are you open to actually discussing active cases? And
Yeah, we're not going to talk about any cases that are like active, ingoing, or like currently in trial or haven't gone to trial. But if something has had a verdict rendered, but it's under appeal, we are open to discussing that. But obviously, we're going to keep it along to whatever's been said in the court of law, so whatever's part of the public record. And if we do get a witness to come on, we would expect their interview to stay in line with that. We wouldn't try to like draw anything out
Yeah.
and corner them and make them say something that hadn't been said yet.
right.
Yeah, we've invited people to come on the podcast, and they have respectfully declined.
Yeah.
Because the cases are either under appeal or they just don't feel comfortable
Right.
being on the podcast. They just but they either respectfully decline or they have a conversation with us.
Mhm.
And so we just want to keep it like that. We don't want to involve any active cases that would allow a potential juror to
Mhm.
hear on a
Yeah.
podcast and then their bias, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden we have mixed that up. So we just choose cases that we can research that are open. The information is open on the internet or wherever, and
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, Karen Rainbow is a big one because there was
Yes.
a lot of heated debate on
Yes,
that
there
digital
was.
evidence. So, we look for it from like two things. One, was it just an interesting case for whatever reason, or is there a lot to be learned from this case?
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like there was like an ongoing public podcast from the Karen Reed trial right on Twitter the entire time. I mean, it was just on fire with comments and people discussing the evidence and people discussing the witnesses the entire time. I think it's really admirable that you don't do podcasts with people in active cases for sure.
Yeah, because otherwise those podcasts, they're already, rendering
Yeah.
a verdict
Yeah.
in their podcast about what happened.
Right.
They're not they're not listening to everything. So yeah, we don't want to bring up anything active.
Yeah. That trial specifically, there were people recording about the evidence and tweeting about the evidence or whatever it's called now. I don't even know if it's called tweeting anymore.
Oh,
But yes,
Xing or whatever.
Xing about it. But I feel like it's same thing you said. If any of the jurors were able to go on and read that, and I know they're not supposed to, but you never know what they're going to be exposed to. I feel like that's really going to play into decisions in a trial.
yeah,
So,
absolutely.
And I like that you keep yourself to your own wheelhouse, right?
Yeah.
You talk about forensics, which is the things that you know,
Yeah.
right? And what you see a lot of people, and that's something that we shouldn't make that mistake. We're trying to opine on things that we're not have expertise on because that could lead us astray.
Yeah.
I would think.
Somebody was like, "Oh, you should do this." Recently to me, they were like, "Oh, do this case because it's got some great geofencing in it." I'm like, I am not touching that. No way.
Let me talk about some cell towers. Yeah, I'm not an expert in cell towers. I'm an expert on phones.
that's definitely something we're never discussing
Yeah.
in the podcast. Cell
Yeah.
towers. That is not my thing.
My co-host over here passed the cast.
Oh,
The cast discussion to me on Karen Reed trial. I was like, I'm not Karen Reed trial, but when we were preparing the murder on murder trial,
yeah.
she passed the cast. I was
I
like,
was like, "Yeah,
okay,
you
we're just gonna kind of bring
We
it
touch it,
up.
like,
they were there. I know cast guys; they're fantastic.
And for folks that don't know, CAS is a group that does work with specific cell tower triangulation, figure out where a device might have been at a particular point based on the cell tower locations and the communication of the devices, which again, really interesting stuff, but that's not my expertise. So I'm going to stay away from that.
So, question: which was your favorite? Which trial was your favorite to discuss on the podcast, and why?
Wow.
I'm throwing a oddball out too because I
That's
didn't even
okay.
tell you I was going to ask that question. So I'm sorry.
So totally unfair.
It's okay. It's okay. I mean, we had some great ones. Just interviewing, I can go back and Dave Fryman and Mark Johnson and Wayne Mitchell and Randy Stone, who's the chair for the
Right.
Cypher class. Like we did the BTK killer investigation, and um, and then we got it wrong.
Because some of the there's like published books from special agents that were on the case
Okay.
that were wrong
Or
about the digital evidence.
Yeah.
there was information out there that was wrong. And so we did that podcast, and then Randy reached out to us and he was like, and this might not have been right. And this might not have been right. And we're like, oh, let's do a myth versus fact.
That's
Yeah.
great.
And so we
That's
brought
great.
him
idea.
on,
That's great.
and he was able to clear up those myths versus facts.
Nice.
And so it just helped us to realize, yeah, we should do our research a little more, talk to people that work the investigation. And so that one was fantastic.
Yeah, I think because he came back to us, we're like, you know what? We should try to interview people. Let's see who will come on the podcast and talk
Yeah.
about their cases.
Yeah.
And help everybody learn.
Yeah.
Well, I love how that illustrates how volatile truth is. And in data forensic, we think volatile memory, turn the computer off, goes away, right? But that's a reflection of reality, right?
Yeah.
Even though everybody saw that trial and everything, as time goes by and people start relating the thing, the actual facts gonna get diluted, right?
I do.
And again, folks like you that have to now go back and say, okay, let's see what was the truth of the matter and what can we learn from it today is super important.
Right.
So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. I go ahead.
I was saying, I think I've learned a ton from doing the Karen Reed case, but I think Casey Anthony is still my
Oh,
favorite because it was like you thought you knew how it all went down, but then once we dug into the testimony
Yeah.
more, and then once we got John Bradley on, and then worked out what happened and how it happened, I mean that was so interesting to finally learn how it all went down
yeah.
and what the attorneys did, their major role, and how the digital evidence shook out in that case.
Their strategies. I mean,
Yeah.
learning from other examiners who have testified about the strategies of the attorneys and how they put them on the stand and use them for specific artifacts to be spoke about. And so just learning that through interviewing has been really interesting to us.
Yeah, you are also the tool for the lawyer.
The
lawyer's tool.
And they might make you look like a tool.
Yeah,
true.
I know.
Sometimes.
Well, and I think that's why like people want to come on the podcast because there's so many things you never got to say on the stand. And so especially if the verdict is rendered, there's no appeals, you can be like, this is everything that never got introduced, or I want to set the record straight. The media misinterprets stuff all the time.
Yes, they
I
do.
mean, if you've been in the courtroom and then you go and read the newspaper, you're like, were we sitting
That
in the
didn't
same
happen.
courtroom?
Yeah.
You know?
So let me ask you this. I think we touched upon it, but I would like to ask you directly. Again, there's been some talk. Folks say, well, maybe examiners or test witness have been in a case shouldn't be out there talking about the case after it's finished or whatever it is. Either because there might be some confidentiality that's being broken, ethically speaking, or not. What are your thoughts on that? Because that's some chatter that I've been listening lately about it.
Yeah.
Well, it depends what you signed, first off.
Mhm.
And then, like, on my cases, I talk to the attorneys. I'm like, what can I say?
Right.
And they're like, well, anything you said in court is fine to say. And then, keep in mind, you go outside of that, it's your butt on the line.
Right.
Yeah, you're on your own. You're on
Yeah,
your own
they're
then.
I think we have to understand as digital forensic examiners, we're still ethically and professionally responsible for what we say and how much we say. And so I think that's why we see so many humble forensic examiners not speaking on behalf of all their hard work.
Right.
And so, but then you see other people maybe over speaking on maybe a piece to the investigation, and then it gets taken out of context or it gets reconstrued on how it was represented. And so I think being able to one, stay in our lane and be professionally and ethically responsible with our communication on a case is important.
Yeah, and we've seen many folks maybe going beyond what they should have said and then really getting in trouble about it. At the same time, my thought, I was discussing this with Heather during the day as we're preparing for the question, the interview, is that this balancing of, well, there's things that happened, right, and that we might not be able to disclose, but at the same time, cases are in court, and court is public. Anybody can go and sit at a courtroom, any courtroom in any case. I mean, there's certain little exceptions, but for the most part, it's public.
It's recorded.
Yeah, and it's recorded. Yeah,
You can download transcripts sometimes and exhibits sometimes for free or sometimes a small fee. So, I mean, you can get access to that data.
And the jurors are told you can now speak about this. You can go do interviews. You can tell your family that what happened with the case throughout. So I mean, I just feel like it is public record when a verdict is rendered. And obviously, if things weren't shared during the court proceedings that you may have access to, that's off limits. But anything in court,
I mean, freedom of speech doesn't go away,
right?
because you were in a courtroom, right?
Yeah.
But again, I guess exercising that judgment, proper judgment in regards balancing my freedom of speech, the fact that the information is public record, versus the points that you're just making in regards to maybe going beyond and then at that point,
boasting, right?
Yeah.
There's humble and there's humbleness, right?
Mhm.
And then there's boasting and exaggerating.
Yeah.
And basically inflicting like more information than you really knew or had. So
Well, yeah, or even like phone numbers. Like sometimes they're in the exhibits in the courtroom, and sometimes they're shown on the TV screen, and sometimes they're not. So if you're gonna like show old exhibits,
Redacted.
yeah, do you need to redact those phone numbers?
Right.
Hopefully, all those people have probably changed their phone numbers by now, anyways.
If you're in the Karen Reed trial, you did.
Yeah, stuff like that. But like also sensitivity to, okay, in the courtroom you had to show these horrible pictures, but do you now need to go around showing that victim's picture on
No.
all of your presentations?
No.
Probably. What value is it going to add, especially as like a forensic examiner? We're here to learn about the facts and the artifacts. How can we find that evidence? I don't need to know what that picture looked like. Tell me how you found it. Let's talk about bits and bytes and offsets and
the significance of it,
and why it mattered.
Yeah, exactly.
I think too, like, so if we took that off the table, we took speaking about cases when they're done in court off the table, how are we going to learn from them? Like the case studies, when we go to these conferences and case studies are put on, or we're just teaching a subject and I'm like, oh, I had a case and this is what happened and this is how it relates to that data structure or that type of data that was found in the extraction. It's used as a learning tool in the industry too. And really feel like we would be limiting ourselves if we didn't share court cases that happened.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Techniques. I was gonna say, I hope somebody, is like listening to our podcast and they're, and then they're working a case and they're like, you know what? I don't remember exactly what was said, but I remember like it was often misinterpreted or difficult to parse out or something like that. And then hopefully they will go and dig a little deeper instead of taking something at face value because they remembered hearing something. I remember, that was a pain point.
Well, and you're reviewing some of those, these are forensic points. Also, it models good behavior for examiners. Say, look, this was effective. It was presented in this way, and this is the reason. And then folks like ourselves can go back, and I haven't been in a trial at that exposure level, but if you learn from it, right, you should be able to function at cases that are not as, how can I say it, although that's such a microscope, right? So,
Right. And then going back to, it's our responsibility as forensic examiners to educate the prosecution or the defense on the artifacts so that they don't misinterpret them when they're asking us questions on the stand. Because as I had been told by an AUSA once when I went to testify, he says, don't be nervous.
Yeah, okay.
Like, okay.
He said, don't be nervous or don't be nervous. Or which one is it?
Don't be nervous.
Or don't. No, be nervous.
And he said, because you know the most about this case, and I need you to go in there and tell a story to the people that don't know it.
Right.
The judge, the jurors, these people don't know what you know. So be a storyteller, right? So, a lot of people like the technical side of it, but it is truly an education side of it too.
Yeah, definitely is. Definitely. All right. So mobile device forensics is evolving rapidly with encryption and cloud data. What do you see as the biggest technical frontier or challenge facing examiners right now?
Can we take that one?
Yeah.
Me, my love of iOS. Well, because I do civil work, I probably see something a little different than you guys, which is like e-discovery companies have come into the mobile forensic space, but they don't understand the differences between the extraction types. They don't understand what files come with what. And so they're getting the wrong extraction. They're not getting the evidence that is needed. And they're like ruining their own clients' cases.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just detrimental all the way around. And I had one case where it was kind of not great for both sides. Um, and they just don't know what they're doing. So that's kind of a different thing than you guys might be seeing.
No, and that's why I love that question, because my visibility into kind of the outside, how it's applied outside
Yeah.
of strictly law enforcement, it's so
Mhm.
limited. And I think a lot of the audience might come from your
Sure.
previous background and our current situation, and that's something to also consider and learn from.
Yeah.
Right. How that knowledge gets now transmitted across to other parts of the digital forensic practitioner space, right?
Yeah.
Right. And then also the old timer disk analysis versus a lot of it lives in the cloud now.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's true.
if you're only looking at the disk, if you're only looking at the, that forensic image, you're missing the connection with the cloud. And so being able to explain that in communication to let's go ahead and preserve the cloud data and get that pulled back as quickly as possible too.
Yeah.
And even outside of ourselves, I say ourselves, the forensic examiner groups, the cohort of groups around the world, is letting the clients on your end, I would some understand that. But even to this day, telling, investigators, hey, I know you spend a lot of time doing the search warrant and doing these things. You have to do one more thing.
Yeah.
There's one more paper I have to put in to make sure you preserve it, and then you search warrant it or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And we have to do that, even though it shouldn't be my position to be reminding the investigator, but I do it all the time,
Yeah.
and we have to do it.
And again, educating them, right?
Yeah.
Because they don't know where the digital evidence
Right.
lives.
Right.
We know where, and if we aren't doing our due diligence to remind them to go get that digital evidence, it could, it's not due diligence.
No, there being, again, no details on cases, but many cases where being able to have the probable cause on a device to reach out to the cloud actually was able to find that missing
Yep.
piece or smoking
Definitely.
gun
Sure.
to actually be able to solve that case successfully. So
Yeah.
important.
I think your point in the civil, where the education on the types of extractions, that's in law enforcement. I've been trying to educate prosecutors when they get their final product, right? And this is everything on the phone. It's everything. The investigator told me it's everything on the phone, and it's a logical extraction from an iPhone 15. So it's everywhere. It's everywhere, and a couple people in my office, we've been actually going around and talking to our prosecutors to try and get that point across. I wish there was a way for us to public service announce it to everybody involved in the digital forensics chain, right?
Well, they just need the tool vendors need to change. The default should be
Yes.
full file system extraction,
should.
and you can only ever get an advanced logical if a full file system extraction isn't available.
Right. Right.
So we're just block it out.
Yeah,
Block it.
it's not even an option.
Just lock
I'm
it.
sure they're rolling over and swearing up right now.
It won't be unlocked until it fails first.
Yeah, I love it. Well, because that impacts a lot of other things. Because then they're trying to say, "Oh, we'll just collect these 10 emails and these 4 as text messages," and and then you're like, "Then I don't have any of the other data that I will undoubtedly need later."
Show the full picture.
Exactly. And then on the civil side, you have problems with the client, like everybody. Nobody wants to give up their devices.
Right.
Well, if you want the best chance at your case, you're going to need to hand it over, and it's going to take some time, and I don't need to know how long. And then just like you have the problems with, logical versus advanced logical versus full file system, I struggle on the defense to get something besides a Celebrite reader report.
Yes.
And I coach my attorneys with what to tell the prosecutor, and they're like, "No,
that's good enough. You have everything. And I was like, I assure you, I absolutely do not have everything.
No.
That's a conversation you and I had just,
Yeah.
about 6 months ago. And I was like, I need to get more data. And all I have is a Celebrite reader. And we had a big conversation about make them give you that image.
Well, and
It's
they
hard.
did. And I feel really comfortable in saying that discovery obligations. Again, I don't understand discovery obligations on the civil side. I don't understand them, so I'm not gonna go there.
It's whatever the lawyers negotiate. Apparently. That's discovery.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that. But I always, as part of, I've been trained. I keep all my work, all my extraction, all my evidence, and that's provided. Like it has to be that way. I am more than happy to receive examiners come into my office, and some evidence cannot be provided for them to take home.
Right.
But they provide them the space, the resources. I want to make sure.
I also have the horror stories all about that.
Access to that.
And it's to me it's such a shock that there will be some pushback on that on either side, right? So again, that's something that hopefully, as time goes by, and this is my opinion, the examiner community skill level goes upwards in a general sense. I'm gonna say that I think there's a question about that's coming up. I believe that it's not formalized. You got folks that have no degrees in digital forensics, like me, because they didn't exist. So we have a lot of training, certifications.
Digital forensics degrees.
No, literally, that was not a thing. That did not exist. But now you require folks to come in with a degree. So there's a lot of variance on how trained are we, right? So maybe as we all kind of achieve this kind of uniform level of competency, then we can push forward for folks to be able to kind of do things in a more efficient, better, more transparent way. I would like to believe.
You think we're going to achieve that level?
I mean, I guess if we don't, they will force us.
Yeah,
So you
I
got
think that-
you got fields that like you're a doctor, right? You gotta pass the bar, not the bar, I said lawyers, but still, lawyers is the same thing. They have the bar, the doctors have whatever doctors have. And maybe it's not a bar, maybe I don't know, maybe it's a kitchen. I don't know. Yeah, exactly. A medical board. They have the medical board. Thank you for saving me there.
We watch you struggle.
Yeah. Thank you for letting me wonder about. And it's it's like kind of mandated, right? There's no uniform standard. I know Brett Shavers talks a lot about this. And you know who Brett Shaver is, you need to go Google him.
Yeah.
He talks a lot about it. So either us as a community and as an industry start putting those requirements out, or external entities will impose it upon us, and then who knows how's that going to work.
Yeah, I think eventually it will be imposed upon us. Hopefully not in a bad way.
That's right.
Okay, so where do you see the field of digital forensics in 10 years, especially given the rise of AI-generated content and encryption? And let me just say, we couldn't have a podcast without mentioning AI. I really apologize, but
Well, the good thing is that Becky's really diving deep in all those issues. So I'm so glad that she's gonna.
She's ready for this.
Oh yeah,
okay.
I know she is.
So, for those that don't know, I am a PhD student too.
So
And-
soon to be Dr. Becky.
Oh,
Yeah.
very
Parsing.
I don't know. We have to finish first. But so I live in the community, right? So I pay attention to what's being said and what's being done. And so I have started my dissertation thesis and started my research, and I have chosen to focus on the area of the admissibility of evidence that is AI. How is that affecting that admissibility of evidence through our Daubert and our 702 evidence, especially since that amendment in 2023? And so I have started my research paper to, define those boundaries of what should be accepted and what should not be accepted. And the mere fact that AI can't testify. So it still takes a human to sit on that stand and tell what AI told you. It's no different from, well, the tool told me, well, AI told me, right? And so I have started that, and I will be looking for participants to help me with the research, right? Because I will have data sets that will be designed to use human only. So our judgment, and then AI assisted. what different models produce the results, and then AI only.
Ah.
How can AI only be the judgment of this data?
That's really
can't.
cool.
So that's my research, and it'll be for the next year and a half. So
I
Well-
want to read it now.
What are the answers? Tell me.
Just put it into chat.
Well, there'll be answers. I know there are the answers.
yeah, it's very interesting. I have there's a big gap. Like people have done study on triage. I
Mhm.
know, there's back in 2014 there was a study on the fact that the data was overwhelming and backlog and all that stuff. And that's no different today.
Right.
But we also have to be mindful of the fact that you're dealing with evidence, and that's going to have to make it into the court of law. And if you're only using AI, you're letting AI interpret it only, then there's going to be an issue. So
Definitely.
yeah, I'm excited about sharing that with you guys.
Yeah,
No,
that's really cool.
it's frontier investigation or research, because I haven't heard of any work really being done at academic level on any of this that is extremely necessary. There's a lot of things that's been going on, but I'm super looking forward to it.
So you may not be able to answer this because you're doing the research now, but will you be implementing any of like the digital forensic tools in, or just testing the models behind the digital forensic tools?
So testing the models.
Yep.
But also testing some tools that are incorporating those models, and also putting together the questions to say, how did you study it? Because
Right.
if you use a model,
Right.
and you use a model, do they all interpret the same thing?
Right.
Right. And so just trying to develop those qualitative, quantitative questions, and then do the testing through human, AI, and AI assistance.
That's so cool. Yeah. Oh, I can't wait.
I cannot. Go. Let's
Yeah, you need to get
go on.
working. You need to get working. Somebody's waiting for it.
Yeah, I mean, see, because and folks that listen to me talk, I go a lot about my experience and intuitions, and that's great to opine, but that's all it is, right? Hard research, that's where it's actually at. And look, I talk a lot, but I'm more than happy to say I'm wrong. And the research shows something else, then that's what the research shows. And
And we all know that um we do triage. We do
Right.
triage data.
Oh
right?
yeah,
Like,
definitely.
cases where you need something right now to move a case forward.
Mhm.
Like, we get it. You can do the triage data. But is AI the answer for triaging that data, or do we have sufficient tools to triage the data to get the results, or do we have a combination? Right? What is the end result there?
yeah, I'm super interested on the whole your Daubert analysis.
Yeah, me too.
So I'm super interested.
And especially since there's Daubert and there's Mona Tires, where it also is part of research where he used very similar to like Daubert, and then the 702 evidence that had an amendment in 2020.
Oh, how that impacts all those things.
Yeah.
Oh,
The admissibility of evidence in court.
I'm super excited. You need to get working. A year and a half is too long.
we're gonna start the podcast now, so you can go to work.
A year and a half is when I finish, so it'll be until next. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a year and a half is when I finish, so it'll be in the next 8 months.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, I'm really excited.
Well, again, we cannot thank you enough for being here and talking to us.
No, we appreciate you
Yeah,
guys
yeah,
having
this
us.
is great.
Yeah, this is so much
To
fun.
just sit down. I'm glad we're all in the same place at the same time to make it happen. Definitely.
So please, if you're not familiar with the podcast, go follow them, listen to them, go comment on the social media. After we do some of the editing, I'm gonna put that on the notes.
Yeah.
And by
Yeah.
me, I mean Heather,
The
because
link will be in the notes. Yeah.
because she helps me, because I'm an idiot in some things. So we have those links for you. So follow the podcast.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
If you're at IASIS, come see us. We have stickers.
oh yeah, let's do it. No, they gave me some already.
Very
Right?
cool.
Any parting words?
Becky, thank you so much. You guys'
Thank you.
podcast is amazing, and we like to listen to it and learn. I'd love to hear all about the the tools are not the answer.
Definitely.
Examiner is the answer.
Yes,
New
yes.
tool can do what new thing that
Right.
we need to
Yeah.
give a whirl. Yeah. So we appreciate you guys bringing that to the podcast and to the community. And
Yeah.
thanks for having us.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
you.
Same, right back to you. Love the podcast. It's awesome.
Well, with all this love here, now sharing it to you. Thank you for the folks. I apologize that I couldn't read some of the message as we usually do because the computer's all the way out there and we're all the way over here. So now you'll see me in the show like get into it. But we will read those comments again. As our audience knows, you can reach us at our LinkedIn and our social media pages. And as always, thank you for watching. Take care and have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye. Ending any second now.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow us to get notified the next time a new episode drops. If you can do more, head on over to parsingthetruth.com and donate by clicking on the donate button. Parsing the Truth is a nonprofit organization, and we are raising money to send a new digital forensic examiner to IASIS training next year in Orlando. Thanks.